Okay, hey, Wes, the explosion, backlog, yada yada. Anyway, I need to admit something kind of embarrassing here. You see, a few years back, I played a game on Switch called Smashing the Battle that was pretty much just a mediocre hack and slash but with anime titties. And you know what? That's fine. Sometimes you take a chance on a game and it's a flop, and sometimes you just want to look at boobies. In this instance, I just happened to fall prey to both. No, the thing I really don't feel like admitting to, but I'd have to just stealth remove from the list and not have much of an episode to boot, is that they came out with an expanded version of the game, Ghost Soul, and I was dumb enough to go back for a second helping. So the game has 4 storylines, 30 chapters each, though the missions aren't long. There are 2 stories from the original game, one you start with, the other's unlocked once you beat the first. The gist is that some big company gets hacked and all their robots start getting hostile, so one of the workers has to put on a weird, not at all that concealing battle suit and try to find an exit. The news story for this expansion has a character that actually does this sort of thing for a living and goes into a shady area to investigate a possible radiation leak and gets attacked by the exact same type of enemies. Look, the plot was pretty boring and I was only half paying attention. There's a few twists that came in that you might not see coming, but that's largely because the story's really not worth thinking too hard about, and it's definitely not the sort of thing anyone would discuss around the water cooler at work. I'd say it's more here out of obligation than anything, but given that just about every chapter does have some interaction between the characters, maybe they were trying to do something here. Either way, not the highlight. On to combat. The main character from the first game is back and playable again. I think her name is Sarah? Don't quote me. Anyway, she uses a giant spanner to attack, which I do not know whether that's a real thing or if that's just the generic sci-fi name you give to a tool that you don't want to just call a wrench. And she also has a few specials she can use. A big attack with her spanner, a proximity mine that can also damage her if she doesn't move away from it fast enough, a magnet that draws all the enemies into one spot, and a heal. Each has a cooldown and costs some SP to use, which is refilled by either engaging in combat, getting a power-up, or perfectly executing a dodge. As you can imagine, there are some tricks that you can pull off with these for more effective combinations, but fighting with this character is largely a pain. Looking at her swinging her big weapon around, you'd think she'd be conking out all the enemies around her, but it seems that the hitbox is largely just directly in front of her. This leads to her being much less effective than it feels like she should be, and given how many enemies use range and will constantly try and back away out of her reach, things can be really unpleasant. The new character, whose name I can't remember, plays much better. She's faster, her attacks actually hit around her rather than just right in front, and just overall plays more how you'd expect and want a character in this sort of game to work. She also has a magnet and heal like the other person, but her main specials are a move where you steer her as she slashes through enemies in her path, the damage hitting all at once when it's complete, and another that just boosts her abilities for a short time. You have a bit more agency with these moves, so once again, playing as this character feels better. Each character can be powered up by collecting coins to increase their HP, SP, damage, and how strong their unique specials are. You get coins from defeating enemies, breaking boxes, and just doing generally well in the levels. You also can get a secondary currency, scrap, and use it to unlock other, recolored costumes that come with their own bonuses. You can either grind for these, or if you're just naturally doing well at the game, these bonuses will just happen. While I've stated in the past how weird it is to me when you have to grind in an action game, since that tends to slow up the pace, the missions blend together so much that whether you're doing an old or new one would be hard to notice without looking at the chapter number. All this really seems to do is drag out the runtime, which is its own issue though. If you were planning on playing this, I would recommend focusing on upping attack and your primary special because taking out a lot of enemies at once for a massive kill bonus is the best way to earn money and further improve your character so that you can continue to clear levels. And you do want to constantly be getting stronger. There isn't a ton of enemy variety, not even recolors, so what you're fighting will get stronger at an indeterminate rate and suddenly, whatever groove, whatever pattern was working for you will suddenly stop doing so, and you'll either have to grind up or just try to push on through without being able to wipe groups all at once, further stunning your cash flow and probably biting you in the butt later. But hey, some of these are just general video game elements, so maybe I should complain about them. And you know what? I don't need to, because I have enough other flaws to point out. Sometimes you just get stun locked by the massive swarms of opponents and take unfair amounts of damage, assuming you don't straight up die. Sometimes there's a ton of stuff on screen. Sometimes the enemies can spawn in mines right on top of you. And sometimes you just get hit by random crap that you have no idea where it came from. Sometimes without even a visual cue of what struck you, making it seem like you just took damage at random. And sometimes, even if you can follow what you're taking damage from, it stacks a lot faster than you would expect, making you just randomly die when you thought you were safe to tank at least a few hits, which also makes things seem inconsistent. There are also some glitches. The big one I remember only happening with the new character, where at times I would just not be able to attack. It occurred when my suit would get damaged and I had to wait for it to repair, which made it so that I couldn't use most of my specials and took more damage. So I thought maybe this was another penalty for that state. Later though, I was able to attack even when like this, like I thought I was supposed to be able to do, leading me to believe that this was just a bug. So as you can probably guess, given that I said there were 4 characters and storylines, yet I only discussed 2, I did not finish this game. When I played the original version, I know I cleared the main story, though I don't recall whether I beat the second. This time, I started playing with the original character, got somewhere between chapters 15 and 20 out of the 30, and was feeling a combination of boredom, irritation, and frustration, so I decided to swap to the new game. For the first several chapters, I was kinda having fun, but as things went on, I began to feel those same things. It was beginning to dawn on me that I could beat 1, probably even 2 stories in the game, but trying to do 4 would probably break something inside me when, on chapter 25, after trying once or twice, I got to the point where I was probably going to win, and the no attacking bug happened, with the added bonus of making me automatically run to the left, getting me killed in the process. For a second, I was worried that my Pro Controller's joystick had drift, but quitting out to the Switch's menu and not scrolling through my game icons without touching anything convinced me that it was the game. It was at that point that I decided to call it quits, without beating a single storyline. As is probably apparent, I would not recommend this game. On the contrary, I would suggest staying far away from it. While it's cheap, only $10 and some change, even that is too much. If you're looking for a hack and slash, there are better ones out there. If you want anime boobies, again, there are better ones out there. Heck, if you want both, there are, once again, better ones out there. I'm telling you folks, Senran Kagura is a massively underrated series. I also finished off the Mega Man X collection, on stream, doing all 8 games with an extra run through of X4 to clear it with 0. I'm really pleased that I managed to complete them all and would heartily recommend the series to anyone, but playing through them all did highlight what a weird series it is when it comes to differences in quality. I think if I were to rank all the Mega Man games I've ever played from best to worst, the bottom 2 and the top 2 would both be games from the X series, which is really crazy to think about. I think there was a shakeup in the team making them around the time things started to go downhill, but that is still a massive gap. I still have a few classic games to get through, but soon I'm going to start doing weird spin-offs or replaying stuff, and next year we'll probably have a lot of Battle Network, at least once that one compilation comes out. As for X, I'm working on a video ranking all 8 main games, and I'd also be more than willing to do full reviews on each individual title if there's any interest. But yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is that X is both the best and worst Mega Man series that I love and despise. Am I weird? Is that crazy? Oh, and I'm working on Sonic Chronicles Dark Brotherhood. I didn't forget. I was dreading it, so I put it off for about a week, then picked it up again, and while it's not good and a lot of questionable decisions have been made, I like RPGs enough that the elements it does in a passable enough way makes it tolerable to almost fun enough that I think I can get through it. Though I could end up recanting that. But yeah, if you want all the deets on BioWare's mostly turn-based take on a speed-based platformer, stay tuned because I have incomprehensible reasons for playing video games. And for something off the beaten path, at least for my videos, my favorite streamer, Tsukumo Sana, is graduating from Hololive, basically meaning that she'll no longer be a part of that group. No idea what she'll be doing under what identity after the end of this month. It's sad because she doesn't seem to want to leave, and neither does anyone want to see her go, but personal circumstances seem to dictate that she needs to do just that. While I know it's not much, sometimes it's the thought that counts, and enough small gestures can turn into something big, so I'd just like to acknowledge someone who's been a big part of my life for the past year, and whose streams regularly brought a smile to my face. Not an easy thing to do for someone who's pretty much a robot person. You thought it was chance that my favorite series was Mega Man? So, even though she's likely to never see this, I'd still like to say, thank you, Sana, and I pray for your health and success going forward. If anyone wants to make fun of me, that's probably fine. I've already acknowledged that I'm basically a Nintendo shill, so what do I care if people call me a Sana simp, though we prefer the name Sonalite. She's always been a ball of joy and positivity, which is huge. One might even say, big. Rather than the typical spreadsheet, here's some rough sketches, very rough, of some channel mascots. Obviously, or at least I hope, it's the Ralts line, shinies no less, wearing armor from Mega Man characters. I'll try and get them colored in the next few weeks and slap them onto a channel banner, which I've left avoid for far too long. Maybe even try to commission someone with actual artistic talent to redraw them later. As for the backlog, we're down to 110 games again. I really need to hammer out some of these before Splatoon 3 comes out. This episode was a bit of a hodgepodge, but hey, it'll happen sometimes. So with that said, thanks for watching, maybe consider subscribing, more Mega Man stuff inbound, and stream Astro Girl. Explosion out.